Hey man, Hebron Ben Bilal come back at you with another edition of this Boomer's Logic. So yesterday I was going to shoot this video, just got a little bit sidetracked on the Shabbat. I'm going to shoot it today. This is the video concerning anti-Semitism. And I explained to you that I would shoot a video regarding anti-Semitism and what they mean when they say anti-Semitism, because a lot of people don't understand. And I'm going to take you on a long journey, but I'm going to take you back around and make it make sense. But before I do, Hebron Ben Bilal, Boomer's Logic. If you haven't already, Hebron Ben Bilal, go to the channel, Boomer's Logic. Like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, all that good stuff. But anyway, now, the rabbit hole I'm going to take you down first is by this rabbi named Rabbi Harry Rosenberg, right? And I'm going to take you down this particular rabbit hole first because of the fact that he identifies with who they are. They're known as Ashkenazis. And this is important because, and his video is just, everything it's a short video. It's only 4 minutes, almost 5 minutes, right? But it's an important video, but I don't want you to lose sight of what he's saying and a lot of the things that he declares in this video, right? Somebody, I've seen this when I had first come home, I believe. And somebody else reposted it. But it's a lot of stuff that he's going to say, but this guy is an actual rabbi. Now, let me do this whole disclaimer thing first, right? So dealing with the Ashkenazi or Jewish communities, you can't run around willy-nilly like here in the black church and just deem yourself a rabbi. You know, like in the black church, you can just get up one morning and say, I'm a pastor, or I'm a bishop, or I'm this, or I'm that, or I'm a prophet, or I'm a preacher. And you can go online and get certified, you know, and boom, you're a pastor or a preacher. There are steps you have to take in accordance to the Hebraic culture and the Ashkenazi Jewish culture, which is one and the same because they feed off the book that belongs to us. And I'm going to show you two places in our historical text where it shows you that you have to be authorized. See, he couldn't stand up in front of a Jewish community and teach at all, period, without being a rabbi, without being a teacher, because that's what rabbi means. It means moreh or teacher. He couldn't do this. So to make sure that you understand that he's legit, this guy he's a legitimate rabbi in their eyes because he has that title, and you have to be authorized to do this. And there is a particular order to this. You can't just, once again, you just can't wake up one morning and say, I'm a bishop, and go online and get a doctorate, Dr. Bishop Jones. You know what I'm saying? You can't do that. You have to be authorized. I'm going to take you real quick and I'm going to read you two things scripturally and show you what I'm talking about. First, dealing with Yeshua, or the one that you guys call Jesus. In Matthew chapter 21, verse 23. This is what they would have asked Jesus. Now, you guys can go back and look at this after the fact, or you can pause and look it up. It says, and when he came into the temple, the chief priests and the elders of the people came unto him. They came unto Yeshua, or Jesus, as he was teaching, and said, by what authority do you teach these things? And who gave you your authority? First and foremost, you have to be authorized. You just can't be some geek off the street. This is why they're asking him this. Hey man, who gave you this authority to be up here doing this? Who authorized this? You have to be authenticated. So he just couldn't be running around willy-nilly. He couldn't wake up one morning and say, I'm Rabbi Harry Rosenberg. No, it doesn't work that way in the Ashkenazi community. And it used to be a standard that was held in our communities where you just couldn't jump up and do these things. But now with the church, you can do all of that. You understand what I'm saying? With the black church, you could just do all of that. You could just wake up one morning and say that because you look and you see all these black women in these positions of power in the church. And that's unheard of. You can't do that. Women are supposed to remain silent in the congregations. You're never supposed to be in the front teaching anything. But because of the fact that y'all push the rules out of the way in accordance to the Hebraic standard, because this is a Hebraic book. This is a Hebraic cultural book. Now to my partner Chad, real quick, before I get to the second example. Chad, you asked me a question. What's the difference between Christianity and the Hebrews? Being a Hebrew, and I'm going to show this in this video, being a Hebrew has everything to do with the culture, with the nationality, nothing to do with a religion. Being a Christian is a religion. I know a lot of people who acknowledge that they're Hebrews. I was locked up with one cat named Tone. Can't remember his last name. But he used to tell me all the time, yeah, I remember, I acknowledge that I'm from the 12 tribes, but I just followed the religion of Christianity, and he used to go to church every Sunday. We had a Muslim dude who used to come to our service. Man, I can't remember his name, but he used to come to our service, and he was like, yeah, I'm from the, the line of Yaakov. I'm from the line of Israel, but I just follow Islam. That's my religion, but I understand I'm part of the 12 tribes. Being a part of the nation of Israel has nothing to do with your religious affiliation. Now, you should follow the culture, but a lot of people go outside of that and say, yeah, I'm an Israelite, but, I do this. Just to give you an example. So let's get to the second example of the authentication practice, right? Because I want to make sure that you understand, because a lot of this stuff this dude is going to say is going to be mind-blowing for you. And you have to understand that he has to be certified in order to stand up in front of these congregations and make these proclamations. This is going to be a little bit of a longer video for anybody who wants to, watch it later, because I got a lot to unpack here. So we're going to Acts 22, verse 3. And it said, this is Paul speaking. Remember, at this particular time, he's on trial in front of the Jewish community, or the Hebrew community. And he said, verily, I am a man which am a Jew, born in Tarsars and Sicily, yet brought up in the city at the feet of Gamaliel. This would have been his teacher. So him making these proclamations is saying, yo, not only am I a Hebrew, but at the same time, this is my teacher. So I'm authorized to be out here teaching and proclaiming. So just to give you some context in regard to this guy here, because a lot of people would say, oh, well, he's just some fake rabbi. No, you have to be, in order to get in front of these congregations as a rabbi, you have to be certified. And this is two of the things that I wanted to show you, why they asked Yeshua what they asked him, and why Paul went through what he went through, and he made sure that he identified himself or tied himself to his teacher. Because this is one of the things they want to know. Who did you come up under? Or were you just some cat out there just, making these proclamations? But anyway, let's get to Harry, Rabbi Harry, and what he's about to explain to you. Now, I'm going to make a different couple stops because of what he's saying. And I'm going to stop at one particular place, and I'm going to back it up 3 times for you. 3 times. I'm going to back it up because I need for you to hear it all 3 times.
And I'd like to now bring up another interesting place that you find descendants of the Israelites, but may not necessarily be from the 10 tribes, but will also play a role. And it shouldn't be overlooked. It's a very serious scenario. Is in Africa. Africa has perhaps hundreds of millions of people with this identity right now of being from the people of Israel. Does that mean they were from the 10 tribes? Likely not. We were taught by the historians and within our own traditions that when the Romans conquered Judea, a few hundred years after that the tribes of Israel went into exile, perhaps millions of Judeans were sold into slavery. Into Africa, into Rome, deep into Africa. And if you look now, you're seeing people who are most likely the descendants of those slaves who kept true. I'd like to bring up a few specific
Now he's getting very as you'll see as the video goes along, he gets more and more uncomfortable with having to discuss this, because remember, he's speaking to a room full of Ashkenazi Jews.
Examples? They're going to be game changers. One of them wrote letters to Israel when it became a state, and they said, "We're Israelites out in Africa." You know, everyone laughed at them, and they said, "African Israelites? These people are just trying to jump on the first world country bandwagon. They're living in a third world country. They got nothing. We're coming to Israel. We got innovation, technology. So they're trying to get on this train because there's such a thing called the right of return. All descendants of the Jewish people from around the world were able to move to Israel. So they said we were also." And everyone kind of laughed at them, like I said. And a few people took it serious and went out there and started studying them, learned about their culture. And a professor from Duke University went out there and did DNA testing on them. And he showed not only did they share Semitic genes from people who were in Yemen and back to the Middle East, these gentlemen, a large percent of them, have the Y chromosome to be Kohanim, to be priests. Now, if anyone who doesn't know, a priest is a specific family clan of the nation of Israel who come from Aaron, the brother of Moses, who was the first priest. And anyone descended from Aaron has the status title priest. And we found that these men in this village in South Africa called Lemba, L-E-M-B-A, carry this genetic marker to let us know that they share the same as from the Sephardic and the Ashkenaz and the population of the people in Israel today. They share the same exact DNA marker. It's mind-blowing. So everyone kind of got humbled.
Okay, I'm going to back it up right here because I want you to hear what he said.
It's mind-blowing. So everyone kind of got humbled a little. It's mind-blowing. So everyone kind of...
I'm sorry, I'm trying to get it to the right
The population of the people in Israel today, they share the same exact DNA marker. It's mind-blowing. So everyone kind of got a marker to let us know that they share the same as from the Sephardic and the Ashkenaz and the popular...
Now, did you hear what he said? He said the Ashkenaz or the Ashkenaz. That's very important. Mark that down. Ashkenaz. Remember that. It's very important. This is who they are. They're Sephardic and Ashkenaz. And the reason that they make this distinction is very important. So remember that. That's what I was trying to get you back to. So let's continue.
The population of the people in Israel today, they share the same exact DNA marker. It's mind-blowing. So everyone kind of got humbled a little bit, who laughed at them and said, now what? Now what do we do about this? This could have tremendous implications. Another area in Africa you have something big happening is in Nigeria. You have the Igbo people, or Igbo, pronounced either way. There's 40 million of them, also Christians, like I spoke about before, how that could happen for the children of Israel very easily. But also a lot of them are now coming out and converting back or adopting the rules of the Torah without all the paganism that they've been practicing for hundreds of years. There's been books written about it from scholars in Nigeria, from scholars from the Jewish people. And where it gets interesting is, in America, there was a slave trade.
Now pay attention to what he's getting ready to say, because he's getting ready to get really uncomfortable for him. And you'll start to hear the doors opening up in their little synagogue. Hence people leaving. You can hear chairs moving and everything. Just listen. But listen to what he says, because it's getting ready to get really uncomfortable for him to have to make this declaration. And listen to what he says about the European Jew.
And a lot of the slaves, a very high percentage of them, came from Western Nigerian ports. And in America today, you see a very large movement of African Americans who say that they're the real chosen people, that they're the children of Israel, they're the Judeans. You know, so what are they just trying to create an identity for themselves because they were slaves, or is there really something here? And the answer is, most likely there is something there. And most likely, maybe that they were the original Israelites, and maybe that the Jewish people today, who are white, Caucasian people, came in a little bit later on. They who are white Caucasian people came in a little bit later on. We know that some of the greatest sages of the transmission of the Torah were converts from Rome.
Listen to the chairs. Get the hell out of here.
You have a man named Onkelos who wrote a commentary on the Torah, unprecedented, that we still learn today. He was a convert. Some of the largest pillars on the transmission today were Roman converts. So here we are, we're Caucasian Jewish people, and now you have people in Africa saying that they're the real people of Israel. It can't be ruled out at all. We know they were sold into slavery. We know now that they're fulfilling prophecies by saying, we're coming back.
Very uncomfortable conversation that he just had with his people. Very uncomfortable. And they didn't want to hear it. You heard most of them starting to get up and leave, chairs shuffling and moving, et cetera, et cetera. So let's go to the lesson at hand. So, teach you today about the Shemitic or the Semitic line. What is an anti-Semitic? Where does the term anti-Semitic come from? And why does he say that maybe the white Jews came on you? Because he's telling them, yeah, we came on the back end. And first thing you have to identify with what is Ashkenaz or Ashkenazi Jew. So right here you're dealing with the three sons of Noah, right? You have Shem. This is where you have the Semitic line, right? So you have to be from this line you have to derive from the line of Shem and go down through here to here, to here, to here, to here, to Nahor, to Terah, down to Abraham, through Sarah, to the 12 tribes, to actually be noted as an Israelite. And this is where we all would derive from. Now, to be Semitic, and this is why they talk about Semitism. So when they say anti-Semitism, that's a vague term, because even though the Hebrews derive from here to here to here, and it's a particular path that you have to follow, all the way down to Abraham, to Sarah, to Isaac, to Jacob, who would have been later known as Israel, to his 12 sons to be the children of Israel, right? Now, when they say anti-Semitic, that's being vague, because anybody who derives from the line of Shem is Semitic in culture. These cultures would have been very, very close in line, except for the fact that Abraham and his line would have received the Torah. And this is the culture that we will follow as Hebrews, right? Very simple. But all of these particular lines that derive from Shem, I'm sorry for all the movement, y'all know I can't do the side by side, man. They would be Semitic in nature. Their language would be very close in similarities and all that type of thing. So when they say, oh, you're being anti-Semitic, well, what group of Semitic people are you talking about? You got a lot of Semitic people here, so that's being very vague. Instead of just saying, hey, listen, you're being, anti-Jewish or whatever, I can agree with that. But at the end of the day, when you take anti-Semitic, all these groups would be Semitic in one way, shape, or form. Now, when you go down through here, you're creating a national identity. This is where you get the Hebrew national identity. They would be known as Hebrew Israelites. Hebrew meaning stranger, Israelite coming from Jacob, who would have been the father of the 12 children of Israel, or the 12 tribes of Israel, right? So Hebrew meaning nation or stranger, Israel being the nation. So Hebrew meaning stranger, Israel being the nation. This is where you get the Hebrew Israelites. The Jewish thing we'll get to in a while, at a later date. So this is where you get the whole Semite thing from, right? Now, you have to be a part of this. You have to be a part of Shem to be Semitic in nature. Now, remember, Shem, this is Noah's three sons, Shem, Japheth and Ham, right? So here's the problem with them claiming to be Semitic. Now, they followed Semitic culture. And when they call themselves Ashkenaz is because they derive from here, from Japheth or Japheth, from Ashkenaz. This is where they derive from. This is why they call themselves Ashkenazis. This is where they derive from, not from Shem. So for them to make the proclamation that somehow somebody's being anti-Semitic, that doesn't even apply to you. That's why I laugh every time I hear it. So they are Ashkenazi. This is why he said the Ashkenaz. This is where they derive from. They derive from here. Now you have Ham, who would have been the third son of, and I'm going to get back to Japheth in a second. Ham, who would have been the third son of Noah. These would be the Africans, or the Cushites would be a more fitting term, because if you know the derivative of African, it's disgusting in and of itself. But the Cushites or Ethiopians, which would have been a term or a name given to them by a Greek historian, meaning burnt face. So they were very, very dark in complexion, right? So Ham would have been the father of Africa. Japheth would have been the father of the Isles of the Gentiles. Now, this is all biblical. This is not anything, and you can go right here and you can track the genealogy. And what's amazing about this is that with this, all historians agree when they study this history. When they study this history, they say, yeah, this is how the migrational patterns started. That all these particular nations would have derived off of the continent of Africa. Some say out of the Middle East, the Mediterranean area, but most say out of Ethiopia that it would have started. Really doesn't matter. It started in one place. Don't care where you say it started from, but the migrational patterns were exactly the same as what's in the Hebrew history text, right? Now, let's get back to Japheth and these Ashkenaz. So, what is an Ashkenaz? Right here. In the Hebrew Bible, is one of the descendants of Noah. Ashkenaz is the first son of Gomer and Japheth. Right here. So, now when you get to the Scythian cultures, this would be like the Irish, the European cultures, right? The Slavic territories all up in Europe with Germany and Northern Europe. So when you're dealing with the Ashkenaz, they themselves will tell you that they are German Jews, right? So this is what an Ashkenaz is. And this is what the rabbi just explained to you that they are called. They are called Ashkenaz or Ashkenazis. So I understand that a lot of people don't understand this, and because you never really studied the Bible or the history in regard to the Bible, and you just sit in a pulpit and you allow somebody to preach at you instead of actually getting in there and digging around and seeing what's in there. Hell, I was a Christian for 5 years, and I really read the Bible, and I never even knew what a Hebrew Israelite was. Actually, literally. That's a whole nother story for a different time, but this is who they are. So when we go to what Ashkenazis are, I read from a different one. And all you got to do is Google this, right? And it's going to tell you this. Ashkenazi is plural for Ashkenazim. And they derive from Germany. You have the Russian ones who are called Khazars. These are all the ones who come up there. And the rabbi told you the best. He said, listen, it's very simple. We came in later. And that's a whole nother lesson for another time. If you guys want to learn that, I'll teach you about when they, came about, the forced conversion, the Russians who would have came down and converted, etc., etc. But yeah, when you're dealing with Shem, This would be Noah's 3 sons. And I probably drug on a bit long, but I wanted to make sure that you guys really understand. When you're dealing with Noah's 3 sons, this is where you get all these different nations from. So you have Shem, and a lot of Hebrews want to say I'm Shemitic, not Semitic. Doesn't matter, you're just mixing words, it's just, you know what I'm saying? And all of these groups would have been Semitic. But you have to follow down this particular bloodline all the way down to Terah. You don't go through Nahor, you don't go through Haran, you go through Abram, who would have been later known as Abraham, right? And then you don't go down to Hagar, would have been the Ishmaelites, and you don't go through Keturah, which they say is Hagar anyway. You have to go through Sarah, and this is where the bloodline continues down to Isaac, through Jacob, right? Through Jacob, through the 12 tribes, is where you get the nations of Israel. And this is why they keep laying claims to being Semitic, because in order to identify with the Hebraic culture, you have to say that you're Semitic. You can't say that you come from here, which they do. Easy lesson. Okay, man, I think I taught you enough today. If you guys want more information, if you want to learn more, if you want to learn where the Ashkenaz first popped up, or Ashkenazis, when they first popped up on the scene and started laying claims to being Hebrews or Jewish, and that's why a lot of brothers say they're Jewish, because they wish they were Jews. Just hit me up in the comments section, let me know, and I'll do a video on that. Until then, love you, see you in the next one.